Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We got so much stuff to get to this week, obviously, but one of the big things was the Boston College Pro Day. Patriots had a huge contingent of 10 individuals at the BC Pro Day. They're looking at the offensive line, Ozzy Trapilo, Drew Kendall, Jack Connolly, and also on the defensive side of the ball with Donovan
Ezaraku.
Oh my God. Can you just pronounce a name? It's not that hard. You're not that old. But we're going to bring Billy O'Brien in right now to have a conversation about not just his prospects, but also the Patriots' plight and where things could be headed at number 4, at least if Bill was making an all things being equal decision. Couldn't be happier, Phil, to welcome in Bill O'Brien, Boston College head football coach, longtime coach in the NFL, of course. We all know him well, so let's just jump right into it. Billy, what did Monday's turnout at your pro day say to you?
I think it was really good for, number one, for the guys that participated, right? Those guys, I thought they showed out really well, and I was very appreciative of the NFL turnout, the way those guys turned out. And I think it says a lot about Boston College that, I really do believe, Tom, that these are the type of guys that those coaches and GMs want in their locker room. They want dependable guys. They want tough guys. They want guys that are, guys that show up same guy every day. And so I was pretty impressed with the turnout and happy for those guys.
Yeah, huge Patriots contingent as part of that turnout with Mike Vrabel there and Elliott Wolf and Ryan Cowden and your good friend Doug Marrone, and we got to see him work with some of the linemen, and obviously there are a couple linemen there in particular that we think are going to get drafted, in Ozzy Trapilo and Drew Kendall. And I'm just curious, obviously knowing everything that you know about Doug, Bill, how can he cure what has ailed the Patriots, these last couple years on the offensive line and help them get back to the level that they want to be at?
Yeah, I think that I have a strong belief in Doug. Doug and I have known each other since 1995. We were together at Georgia Tech. He actually helped me get I was a graduate assistant and then kind of moved up the ranks at Georgia Tech. But Doug helped me get my foot in the door there, and I learned a lot of football from Doug. Doug played in the NFL for several years. He played for the Raiders. He played for the Vikings. Played for the Dolphins. Doug played for Don Shula.
Wow.
Doug, has coached offensive line at the highest level. He coached offensive line for the Jets, offensive line for the New Orleans Saints with Sean Payton, coached at the University of Tennessee, the University of Georgia, offensive line. He's got a great track record of, coaching the offensive line. He's very technical. He's very smart. He's got a lot of qualities similar to one of the greatest to ever do it in Dante Scarnecchia. So I think it's a great fit for New England. And look, at the end of the day, it's about players, right? It's about, the level of talent and things like that. But I think Doug will do a great job of evaluating the talent and helping Mike bring in the right type of guys to form that offensive line. Because in the end, like I'd say, everybody, people talk about receivers and Drake May needs receivers and he needs this and no doubt about it, but he needs O-linemen to block for him. So if you don't 100%. Have O-line, you got no shot. You could have Randy Moss out there. If you don't have an offensive line, you got no shot. So, I think Doug will be a great asset to Mike on that staff.
Just to pull on that thread a little bit, I've contended that the offensive line travails in 22 and 23 really led to the Patriots, the decline of Mac for a lot of reasons. And you were there to watch it. He wasn't able to be Mac Jones, who might not have been a top 10 quarterback, but certainly held hostage the offense in what he was able to do. So then you end up back in the draft after a 4-13 season and you get a Drake May, but you still have to protect him. So it's such a domino effect if the offensive line isn't addressed. Tell me a little bit, if you could, about. Go ahead, Billy.
No, it's just difficult. You're right. I mean, I think if the guy is back there and he's, taking a lot of shots, it's tough, and so I think, if you go back to in the heyday of the Patriots, right? I think these guys get a lot of credit. I'm not sure they get enough credit, but the Matt Lights, right? The Dan Copens, the Logan Mankins, what an awesome player. Matt Light, Nate Solder, Sebastian Vollmer, Nick Kaiser, Steve Neal. I mean, on and on, right? And then after that, it was Ryan Wendell, and he's the line coach of the Rams now. And just a who's who of linemen. I mean, those guys were tough. They protected Tom, and Tom used to tell him like, "Hey, man, I'm going to be right here. This is exactly where I'm going to be. So make sure you protect me inside out." And obviously, Dante coached him very well. But that's a massive part of the success of an offense, no doubt about it.
What about Trapilo and Kendall specifically? One a tackle, one a center. How would they? Don't say how would they fit, but what do they offer? Let's say how would they fit if you want to.
Yeah, no, I'm very, obviously I'm very biased. I mean, I just really, these guys, when I took the job here, they were two of the guys that I met with right away, them and Donovan Ezeraku. And, right from day one, Tom, when I took the job here, those guys bought in, right? It was just a different way of doing things. It was a lot of physical contact in practice. It was, strength and conditioning, and just, we run a demanding program. And so those guys bought in, and I'm forever indebted to those guys. So I'm very biased. I think Ozzy's an excellent tackle. I think he can play right. I think he can play left. We played him at the right because we had a guy named Jude Bowery who was left-handed that was a left tackle, but Ozzy could have easily been on the left. Drew Kendall is just a very tough, very smart, in the mold of, those guys that I mentioned, before, in the mold of a Dan Copen, in the mold of a Ryan Wendell, a David Andrews, like those type of guys that have been the mainstays of the offensive line of the Patriots. Drew is, got similar qualities. So, I'm really excited for those guys. I think Jack Conley was another guy yesterday that showed out pretty well. Big guard, can play tackle. So 3 guys right there that I think will end up, getting a real shot to play a long time.
With Drew in particular, Bill, I know played in the Pinstripe Bowl for you guys, and probably didn't have to, right? But chose to. What's that tell you about him and his character? And, we've been talking a lot about football character and fit here and Mike Vrabel's locker room and all that sort of stuff. But when you see that from a player like Drew who's going to get drafted, what does it tell you about him?
Yeah, that's a great point, Phil. First of all, he was deciding during that, there's time there between the end of the season, the pit game, and then the bowl game. And so he was deciding whether he was going to go out for the draft or come back, because he could have come back and played a 5th year here. And so, I met with his parents. His parents are awesome. You guys know his dad, Pete, was a great player in the NFL, great player in college. And Drew's got a great mom. And we met, and, at the end of the day, they decided what was best for them was for Drew and Drew decided to enter into the draft. But he said, look, I want to play my last game at BC. And that says a lot about Drew and his love of football. And unfortunately, he got injured in the game. He got rolled up on his ankle, but he did. He put the helmet on for one last time, and that meant a lot to us as a program. And it tells you what he's all about.
Billy, I don't know of anybody in coaching who has more rebuild and building expertise. Whether it's going to Penn State and that situation that you dealt with, going to Houston, you were here and watched the attempt to salvage and reboot. Now you're at BC. What are the most pivotal aspects, whether it be college or the pros, of the first year of a build?
Awesome question. I think there's a couple things, but I think one of the things that I learned, and I tell this to people all the time, is I really believe it's about the people that surround you, right? You have your philosophy, and you have, your belief and your way of doing things, but it's about the people around you, because most of those people, whether it's Craig Fitzgerald in the weight room, or Will Lawing on offense, or Tim Lewis on defense, or Matt Turn on special teams, Bears Najarian in operations, whatever it is, they're going to implement your plan. And so, I think you have to surround yourself with the best people you can. And that's the one thing, when I went back to Tom's retirement last summer, which I know you guys were there, and it was an incredible night. And one thing that stood out to me was, during those years, most of those years of the Patriots, there were a lot of great people there. Yeah, we had an unbelievable quarterback, the best of all time, but we had a lot of, awesome guys as players. We had, the trainers, the equipment guys, the video guys, the ops guys, all those people that made that organization go. To me, it's about people. And then I think after that, it's continuing to deliver the same message. And don't waver from the message. And I think if you can stick to the message, you're going to go through some tough times, but in the end, hopefully, you really experience some good times and the guys really start to believe.
Well, and when talking about the sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I just want to follow real quick because, in hindsight, when you look at Gerard's situation and you were there and, I'm sure you had conversations as to whether or not you wanted to go to BC or stick around, but there wasn't that uniformity of message and coaching staff. And he didn't have a 25-year coaching career in which he had guys to come with him. So it was not ideal. I mean, it was controllable in terms of you could have brought in a different person, but to try and boost somebody you thought had promise, as the Crafts did, and then have them in a situation where it's hard to implement the message to folks that you're meeting for the first time, whether it be Alex Van Pelt or it's hard. It's friggin' impossible. And it's not a surprise. It was hard to translate.
Yeah, we all have tough jobs. I mean, obviously you guys know me for a while. I have great respect for what you do. You don't have easy jobs, right? You have to form an opinion and you have to give your opinion. And, coaching is not easy. Obviously, there's several professions that are not easy, but being an NFL head coach, Tom, is probably one of the most difficult jobs there is, because for many reasons, right? You're coaching grown men. There's money involved. There's, the pressure to win. You have to make sure that you're evaluating the talent properly. You have to surround yourself with great coaches because you cannot coach everything. You can't do everything. It's just impossible in this day and age. They're really, there won't be another Bill Belichick. Those days, I don't think those will happen anymore because, he did everything. He was the GM, he was the coach, and I just think it's very difficult to do. So, and then on top of that, and Gerard was an awesome player. He was a captain, and he was a really good assistant coach. But at the end of the day, like he didn't have a ton of experience, and so I think it's difficult. It's tough, and I'm sure he'll obviously rebound and he'll be back coaching at some point. But it's a very difficult position to be in when you don't have a ton of experience and your network of people is small and it gets bigger as you experience more years in coaching and try to pick the best people you can to surround you. But being an NFL head coach is definitely a very difficult deal.
And then you fall in the best to ever do it too, which is compounded.
No doubt.
And when we look at Mike and the challenge that's ahead for him here, Bill, and you obviously know him so well, I think, we talk about your program and the guys that and why they might be good fits for Mike's program. You've been in that, head coaching seat, numerous places before. And maybe it applies, obviously recruiting high school kids or trying to get transfer students to come to your program in college is a little different than picking players in the NFL draft. But the question of familiarity is an interesting one to me. We used to see Bill Belichick do it all the time. He would really lean on his friends in the college coaching ranks, and he would end up taking a lot of guys from Rutgers, right, or from other programs where he felt really good about the intel that he was getting from the coaches for those players. Why is that important? Do you think that'll be important for Mike? And is that part of this, rebuild conversation that we're having here? Can you just feel better about the foundation that you're laying if you have a little extra familiarity with a couple of kids like Mike might have with some of your players?
Yeah, there's no doubt that when you get into that position that Mike's in, and again, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I've known him for a long time, and we believe in a lot of the same things, that you want to bring guys in that maybe, obviously in the pros that maybe you coached at the Titans, right? They know what the expectations are. They know how you practice. They can lead it. Like they can help you lead it. They did a good job for you at the Titans, or you want to bring somebody in from a college program that, like these guys, they practiced hard, they lifted hard, they ran, they were in condition, whether it was, Boston College or, Ohio State or Alabama when Nick Saban was there, like, Rutgers when Greg Schiano was there for Bill, like you just know those kids know they're prepared. It's like at Boston College, we recruit a lot of, Catholic schools up and down the East Coast because we know that those kids that went to Catholic schools, they're going to understand the balance of academics and football, like what we have here at BC. So you're wanting to bring guys in from, let's just call it like-minded places that will understand the standard and the expectation coming in the door.
Billy, you're sitting at 4 as a hypothetical leader of a football team in the draft, sitting there at 4, and you have an offensive lineman, you have a wide receiver, and you have an edge player. Which one would be the most important to you to build with? Pick of the litter.
Yeah,
and I don't want to get into the Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, but which one's the most important position if you want to be a building team? You don't have anybody on those spots.
Yeah.
Tackle, I should say.
Look, right. I think when you look at the top 10 picks in the draft, right? I'm just saying position wise, I'm not talking about the Patriots. Just start off with, all right, if you love a quarterback, right? You need a quarterback and there's somebody there that can change your program for the next 10 to 15 years, all right? A pass rusher, somebody that can affect the other team's quarterback on a regular basis, right? A cover corner, somebody that can play man-to-man and can take away half the field because you can put that guy on the best player. A left tackle, a guy that can protect the blind side of a right-handed quarterback. Those are the positions. I'm not saying anything about wide receiver. Right? I don't really know the draft, Tom, to be honest with you. I've been
100%.
pretty busy here with BC, but I just think those are the premium positions to think about when you have a top 10 pick. And, obviously they don't need a quarterback. And, so I think it's who is it somebody to protect Drake, or is it somebody that can sack the quarterback is this a guy that can get 15 to 17, 18 sacks a year that can win you games? I mean, when I was in Houston, J.J. Watt literally won us games because of his ability to sack the quarterback. I mean, he literally won us, many, many games, especially when we had, offensively we were okay, but we had a great defense. That guy affected the game big time. So I think you gotta look at your team, and you don't really want to draft for need. That's not really what I'm saying, but you need to say to yourself, okay, who's gonna really help us the most of those premium positions, when we watch this guy. And then the guy's got to fit, right? He's got to fit what you believe in. He's got to be a good locker room guy. He's got to be the guy that can carry the message in the locker room during training camp when it's going to be very tough. Mike's going to be, tough on that team. Is this a guy that's going to be in that locker room saying, no, guys, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to operate. And, that all goes into it too.
I remember hearing you say yesterday, talking about that pass rusher position, that Donovan was a guy who won you guys games last year, just because of what he could do coming off the edge. And it sounds like he's going to be another one of these guys. I know we talk a lot about the offensive lineman here, but it sounds like he's going to be another one of these guys who has all those, football character boxes checked as well.
Yeah, I think Donovan, he did, I did say that. I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 games that, we struggled offensively late in the game and we needed a stop. And this guy came up with not only did he come up with a stop, but he would strip sack the quarterback and get the ball back. And so, I think that when they watch when they watch his film, I think they're going to see a guy that affected the game. And, and he's a captain. He's a good guy. He'll be a great guy in the locker room. So yeah, I think that's one of those, what you would call premium positions. Like when we would go into games and we had to block, Dwight Freeney and we had to block, the last year I was at the Patriots, we had to block, Micah Parsons or, some of those guys at the Jets, that affects the game plan. Like you can't, you got to say well, we got a chip on this guy, or we have to have presence over there on every single play. we would play some of those guys back in the day, and Jason Taylor at the Dolphins. Every play was like, okay, on this play, we're running 85 plays in the game. How are we handling Jason Taylor on every single play? You know what I mean? So like those positions they affect the game big time.
Bill O'Brien, Boston College being a factor always makes Boston sports a hell of a lot more fun. So we've really enjoyed the rise last year, and I'm expected to continue. And appreciate you taking the time here today, buddy.
Yeah, always good to talk to you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and let's see if we can try to keep it going this way. I think we're on the right track here, but I appreciate you guys and your support. Thank you.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Thanks, Bill.
Phil, good stuff from Billy O. You got an expats this week?
We will. We're going to have an expats. We got a lot to get into. We got some new mock drafts coming about, and Tom, it's looking more and more like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter is going to get to the Patriots, and I wonder if it's Abdul Carter, what they'll do. And so we're going to talk about that on expats.
Listening to Billy right there, it was very interesting. I mean, wide receivers are awesome, but they need a lot of things to happen around them. Defensive ends, they can just say, all right, I'm ruining things. Anyway, we'll get into it more as the week goes along. We got plenty to talk about on Thursday's edition. So thanks, Phil. Thanks, Billy O. See you guys.